So I did a thing, says almost every woman sheepishly as she announces something she's done, is doing, or has done with nervous trepidation. My thing was that I registered on a dating app. If anyone had told me even a few months ago that I would have done so, I would have vehemently shaken my head. I would have pulled out the holy oil that may or may not be lurking at the bottom of my bag as part of the toolkit, read armoury, my mother brings with her when she comes to visit, and sprinkled it with gusto on the person who uttered such profanity. But yeah, it was me. I did it. It was unexpected, and I'm learning a lot from the experience. To be honest, I had not been thinking about dating. Maybe when I'm 50, sure, maybe, possibly, but not right now. Not when I'm still learning how to do single motherhood with a 6-year-old. Not when I've worked so hard, this hard, for my freedom to get where I am right now. I mean, why on earth would I ever contemplate ever seeking out male attention ever again? My body made me do it. I've been living in survival for so long that I didn't even know how far or how deep it went. I had stopped feeling any kind of desire for years now. Sex was just not something that was on my radar. I had quietly learned to turn that part of me off until she slowly, gradually, over time, especially in the last year or so, started to poke her head out and say, "Oh, I'm here." How annoying, and how dare you? To be frank, I was quite terrified and overwhelmed. I am happily chugging along in the mother zone, doing the whole women's empowerment and liberation thing, and my body starts nudging me. Suddenly, I'm thinking about sex. Not necessarily the act, but everything starts to feel sensual, and I'm noticing everything. Like when I go out, things I would have overlooked previously begin to catch my attention. The look in someone's eye, the shape of a bottom lip, a walk, a gesture, the sun, the moon, a leaf, the wind, the tarmac as my feet touch it, for crying out. Suddenly, everything feels awake and alive, and I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of sensation, and no one bothered to tell me in advance or ask my opinion on this hostile takeover. I'm waking up feeling as aroused as a teenage boy and asking Google why my libido is increasing instead of decreasing with age. I'm confused, scared, and worried that my hormones are revolting on me and I will never, ever again be able to take back control of my body. And then it begins to make sense. I'm just waking up. The parts of me that were covered over for survival are waking up and letting me know that they didn't die. They were just waiting until it was quiet enough, safe enough to come back out again. An unexpected byproduct of doing the work around visibility. Somehow, the urge to no longer hide away, to be seen and noticed, was a channel for those parts of me that craved attention to say, and me too. I have carried a lot of shame around my relationship choices and sensuality. I've also carried a lot of judgment and self-blame about not picking well. letting the part that desires take over and make chemically driven choices versus choices that actually feel safe. When we choose unwisely, women are told that we have bad pickers. But maybe what's really going on is that we learned how to pick a particular kind of man because of the systems surrounding our choices. Let's face it, with a bit under 30 days on the dating app and with the glaring evidence of the real world, I can see for myself that the pool isn't that great. We learnt to settle. I learnt to settle. I learned that if a man chose me when a man chooses me, then I should be grateful. No, more than that. I believed that it meant that it was destined. And it made sense to a mind fed on Harlequin romance, 90-minute Hollywood rom-coms, and princess fairy tales. Being picked was like winning the lottery. Any attraction on my part only confirmed it. But the problem isn't that I had a bad picker per se. The problem was that I held a belief that I was always to be chosen, never the one doing the choosing. That's the settling. That's the bad picking. So when desire came back online, I was afraid that it would lead me to become entangled with yet another man who chose me. So I quickly shut her down and stuffed her away. Yes, I didn't trust men. But more importantly, it became clear that I didn't trust myself with men. I didn't trust my ability to protect myself, to say no or yes or whatever the hell I needed or wanted to say without being afraid I would lose them in the process. So it became safer to just say no to men. No more men. Not because I had reached some grand political conclusion, not because I believed women should avoid men, but because without a sexual urge in sight, I was very happy to wait until approaching 50 before thinking about checking out a bicep. Looking back, I can see that there was obviously safety in that position. And perhaps that's what I've come to question. Not whether women should choose or not choose men, but whether the choice was ever actually theirs. Are we accepting, obliging, reactive, passive, sacrificing? But here's what shifting out of survival taught me. There's a big difference between reacting from fear and trauma in order to survive and acting from aliveness and trust in your own inner knowing. So, while I was at civil war with myself, I decided to try something different. I decided to conduct a little experiment at a safe distance. On the outside, it looked like me signing up for a dating app. I'm not completely sure what I was expecting when I did, but before 5 days had even gone by, I knew this was going to be a whole other lesson. Even daring to be here and share these words out loud is evidence of those lessons at work. For sure, it confirmed the shockingly poor pool of men out there right now. But really, it wasn't about them. It was about me. Even while flooded with sexual energy, even feeling terrified that I might fall prey to the same patterns again, another question began to arise. Could I stay with myself in this? Was the only way forward truly to force the parts of me that felt too wild to express back into solitary confinement? Or could I learn to be with myself, trust myself, choose myself? Because I have been in hiding. I knew it when I used clothes as armor to hide behind because I didn't want any attention. The baggier, the better, the blander, the safer. I knew it whenever a part of me recoiled when a certain type of man gravitated into my orbit. Yes, men. 99.9% of the men in my life had just been dangerous to me up until that point. So the only ones that were able to get just a little bit closer were the ones who proved with time and evidence that they were non-threatening. Last year, I went back to learning bachata, which is a partnered dance, and that was the closest male contact I'd had in a while. Even then, I think I knew. Even then, I think I knew what I needed. Safer ways to practice proximity. Even so, any guy who showed the slightest interest, or let's say, only the dust that I kicked up on the way out was what was left behind. And to steal phrasing going around the internet right now, something in me cracked open. Maybe even back then, but more so when I started really leaning into being visible. If you read my last essay, you'll know that I'm not talking about visibility as a marketing gimmick or strategy, but visibility as allowing yourself to be seen as you are. The more I reclaimed this for myself, working through each layer as they surfaced and asked for my undivided attention, the more it seemed I dislodged the layer around attraction, sexuality, and sensuality that had been buried the deepest. Somebody once asked me why I was still single, and I said, I give off wicked, don't you dare try it vibes, and I wasn't lying. I don't care how much you try to get my attention or how good you look, it always just felt like, ew. But I no longer wanted to default to my old protective strategy of just making myself invisible to feel safe. So a question arose. How could I deal with the tension of wanting to be seen without also feeling like running for the hills when I was noticed? The dating app became my experimental ground. Of course, it wasn't necessarily easy or clean, but it was with real people, so not theoretical. It offered me plenty of opportunities to find out if I could trust and protect myself, if I could remain with myself, be myself, without feeling like I had to trade pieces of myself for connection. I began to find the answers to my question in tangible ways, like noticing how I could say no with ease and solidity when someone asked for my number or access beyond my boundaries. The certainty I felt in my chest and my stomach as I promptly unmatched anyone who was in the slightest way disrespectful or threw a tantrum for not getting what they wanted. Exiting conversations with men who thought that I was interviewing for an esteemed role in their life that I had never wanted, let alone applied for. The men who made it pretty clear that it was all about them, their experience, their needs, their goals, whatever. Even how it felt to unmatch men I thought had possibility. When I began to notice how interacting brought in an uneasiness in my stomach and chest, or an emerging lack of fit became the testing ground of whether I would literally listen to my gut or whether my mind would override it with excuses and justification. I know some people use dating apps to find someone, and it's not that there wasn't a sliver of hope in that direction at all. But what it showed me was how it was helping me to rediscover parts of myself that maybe I had never known or exercised because I felt I was incapable of doing so. Each conversation has taught me something about myself. Each agonizing moment of silence has asked me to notice what exists within it, within me, what I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I don't. My non-negotiables for feeling safe in conversation, my filter, what needs to happen even before I contemplate a phone call, let alone a face-to-face meet. And maybe, most importantly, the fears and wounds buried underneath and the signs of the old pulls and patterns surfacing. Because desire doesn't have to mean desperation and self-abandonment. When I was younger, I used sex to create fast intimacy because it had been missing from so much of my life. Now, I can't even think of sleeping with anyone who doesn't make me feel like they respect who I am as a person, a mother, a woman with her own world, mind, and needs. And though the desire is there, intimacy is no longer about sex, but about being known and knowing someone else. That's the ultimate turn on for me, and that kind of connection takes time. Many of the men I've encountered on the app filter themselves out. They want fast, they want easy, and they feel personally attacked when you deny them the instant access they think is their right. I'm learning not to make their inability to meet me where I am mean something about me. Yes, the desire is still there, still raw, still wanting. She exists alongside the part of me that knows scarcity is a lie designed to make me feel like I am out of option. The younger me was ruled by scarcity. She was worried that if she didn't make a choice, if she didn't say yes, then she would miss the opportunity. This version of me knows what someone can't offer right now on a dating app, they will never be able to offer at all. So yeah, I registered on a dating app. It was the experiment, not the point. Somewhere between the awkward conversations, the unmatched profiles, the butterflies, the boundary setting, and the unexpected moments of tenderness, I realized there was a truer lesson. I can trust myself. I can be with the tension and the intensity, the parts that desire, parts that want to be seen, the parts that feel alive, and still choose. In fact, next month, I'll be back in a bachata class because I love it. I love dancing, and I especially love the heat and tempo of Latin dance and how it makes me come alive and remember who I am. I don't want to hide that part of me anymore. And yes, I also know that I'll be learning lessons once again on what it means to be in proximity, to be visible, to move with another person without losing myself in the process. And perhaps that's what all of this has been about. Because partway through this week, I found myself crying, and it dawned on me. The app is just a symbol, a manifestation of something I didn't think would or could be mine ever again. Freedom. Freedom to choose, yes, but maybe more powerfully, freedom, sovereignty in my mind, my heart, my body. unshackled, belonging to no one else but myself once more. Not simply finding a man to fill a space, but finding a way to let more of myself come home. Desire too, because I've missed her. Thank you for reading this essay or listening to this essay. It's been a bit different from what I usually write, so I do hope you've enjoyed it. Next month, I'll be hosting a 6-week summer experiment, introducing you to 2 simple yet powerful practices that quietly underlie everything that I've shared with you today: noticing and experimentation. When I say they've changed the quality of my life, I really, truly mean it. They're also at the heart of the work we've been exploring within the Embodied Living Circle over the past 5 months. And that's what this summer experiment is about. If you've been curious about embodied living and would like to experience what these practices look and feel like in everyday life, I'd love for you to join us. The summer experiment begins Monday, the 20th of July, and the investment is £60. Places are limited, but you can secure your place using the Stripe button in this post, or if you'd like to know more before deciding, you are very welcome to send me a message, and I can also connect you with the women who are currently in the circle to hear their perspective.